some of the past things that happen, ancient, whatever is not even ancient. We're here to talk about the truth. We did, this, I want to say it's a series, but we've been talking about the Bible, and is everything in the Bible the complete Word of God? Now we are at probably part 6 right about now, and we'll continue because I said this information is, it's vast. So it's definitely will take us some time to kind of unfold and uncover a lot of things that's really happening, just to give you a clarity and what the truth is. So we talked a lot last week about the book and whatever questions we got from audience, and I hope that you guys can ask some question and get kind of deeper into the segment with us, so we can able to we can be able to actually give you guys the real thing, because this here, I'm telling you, this program here, we're using this for kind of educate people basically, right? Some of us are absent-minded. Some of us are unaware of what the truth is, as we live in a society where the ruling power, once the ruling power once had control of our ancestors, right? Took away their history, took away their culture, took away a lot of things from them. So being here, living here under their rulership, it's gonna be difficult for you to find out who you are actually, because they won't tell you, right? So they won't teach you about yourself. If that's what you're waiting for them to do, that would not happen. So I would suggest to you guys, all of you out there, to go and study, go and do your own, due diligence. Try to figure out what's happening here, as it's unfortunate a lot of our people passed away without even knowing. I mean, you have to understand from the breaking, all right, from the compromising, of our people and their minds, right? How they were compromised, they would have, they would have faced more, you understand me, more tragedy than us, because they would have known the reality of what was happening to them. They would have had that experience with the enemy at that time. Now everything just like watered down to now, and we feel like we're not on the plantation chattel slavery anymore. So we're not getting the whip on our back out, working from sun up to sundown, and being racially profiled and prejudiced and eat against, as it was then, and was more open and bold. Now it's very secret, but racism, prejudice still exists here. You might not know it, and people in the media won't talk about it. Even a lot of them, 99.9% of them, are in fact racist towards the melanated people. But they won't say this because the world is watching. No, it's not what it was then, where messages to be sent in other means, in other ways and other means, right? We're talking about the internet that connect the world now, so people in different places can see what's happening. So, they're trying to not make the focus be on them, that they're bad people or they're evil or wicked. You get me? So they kind of, don't enforce the way that they do. But persons and people in power, especially those who are supposed to regulate, right, the rules, the law, they take advantage of that, right? They abuse their authority on other people that are beneath, or who they think is beneath them. Are those people who don't fit within the populace, right? Those people who don't assimilate, I guess, right? Has been taken advantage of to this very moment. So racism didn't disappear because the ancestors and the encounter they had with the enemy, and they resolved the problem. It was never resolved, and to this very moment, it's still not resolved. So you have people here fighting to vote, fighting for all different type of things. You understand me? And they don't know themselves. This is why they're fighting, because they think that they're supposed to be one with these people. And these people know that they're not one with them. You can't just say that you are a white European person as a black person, because you're not. You can't expect to get the privilege, right, within a white system that is set up, right, to cater to white people. So as a melanated person, you won't get the same benefits. So you know, but a lot of us are in denial when it comes to this because we have a place to live. We think that we have rights because we have a house, shelter over our head, and we have the privilege to go out on the plantation and apply for different positions. Some that were denied, some that would get, some that you probably go there and they're biased against and you won't get it. And others that they will say, okay, well, you know, why not? It's just work, right? For some, they just don't want you in their space. You know, so we know racism exists still this very moment. It didn't go nowhere. America, this city, this place, society is the capital of racism. And not to put the other countries out of it. Because they too have, you know, their ways of, you understand me, racism, or they have their own racism happening, classism, whatever you may call it, is happening outside in the other countries. And there's just this group of people that everybody look at differently. Everybody. And when I'm saying everybody, I'm talking about every single person that is not black, and even some of them that are black look on these groups of people differently. We understand? So there's a tension between them and these. And then, you know, just to ask the question, what have they done to you that you would hate them? Because you have to hate someone, you know, for a reason, right? A cause. And it seems there's no cause for you to hate somebody, but yet you hate them. You don't know. So it's an inherent thing, right? You don't even know why you hate them, but you just basically hate them because, you know, that's what it is. So the reason why I'm talking about racism and the tension that exists between people, because I'm letting the descendants, right, of slaves know that they're not, and they were never taught the complete truth about who they were or themselves. And the enemies, right, because that's what they are considered, didn't teach you anything. You just happen to be here. You happen to be here, you understand me, for whatever reasons that you're here, right? And they wanted to extinct you. They wanted to sterilize the whole melanated race of people from out of the America. Somehow they failed at doing that. So they set up, in the process, they had breeding camps, right? Which they were trying to, what you call, white out, right? White out every black melanated person. But it failed because the black gene is the dominant gene, as you know it, that melanated people are in fact the original people, right? And as you know before, as I've stated before in other episodes or in other in other videos that we do discuss, that the other group of people are not original. They were never created that way. You understand? They were never created white. They weren't created like that. When the Most High created man, the very thing that you have read in the book about the creation of men, all of them were dark-skinned, melanated people. They were created this way so that they would survive within this ecological system, right? Which the sun is the hottest element. So the creator, who is vast and wise in his wisdom, would have created men or people to survive within that system, not to hide from the sun and to stay hidden. Now, you're wondering why they are worrying about global warming, because if this happens, it means that majority of the race that cannot live within in the heat and take the sun is going to die. They'll be extinct. This is why there's a great concern when they mention this idea of global warming, right? Or this whatever about global warming. So we know this, that so the original people is melanated. So for the fact that you look around today and there's the other group that is ruling, you know, what good intention do they have towards the melanated people? Do they know that these people were first and are first on the planet? And do they know that the beginning of all civilization started with these people? Do they believe that, you know, mathematics, all that you know today, right? Culture, everything that you know and live today, do you know that is coming from these people? And this is where the other group that take power, right, deny the other group, right? Saying that everything started with them. But there is no proof. In fact, it couldn't be real, couldn't be true, right? That they started everything. Now you know, right? The fact that they didn't start everything, and that whatever was started before, I'm on building, I'm talking about mythology, every single thing that you know that keep this modern world functioning were invented and created by these people long time ago. They're just taking things, improving, adding to it, but the foundation of all things is from the melanated people. So we know that. But this truth, they won't teach it in their schools. Why would the enemy teach that he's secondary to the first people? They would teach their people that they're the first because they're in power. If there was black people in power, this would have never happened. See, white supremacy only thrive on black people being down, right? So if black people were up there, the truth, most of the truth that we know today that's been hidden and things that been, as far as Egypt and what they call the Middle East and Israel and all different other places, none of these things would have happened that way, right? Because respectfully, people would have known this, that the people from the beginning have information, right? Legitimate information that can share with the people in modern times. And history would not be tainted the way that it is today. And, a lot of us been, indoctrinated with lies and, false teachings, right? So this is why we go back to the Bible. When we're talking about the Bible, we're talking about, is the complete word of God, is it complete? And where it was infiltrated by other groups of people who came in and tried to change the history and tried to put themselves in the book that don't belong in the story at all. And this is where you find a lot of confusion when you read, right? For instance, they'll tell you that the Messiah, and they tell you about the Trinity, and a lot of people, I'm saying Christians, in fact, those are the people that I'm talking about. And not only that, their teaching has spilled over and poisoned a lot of people living within the communities and different, countries around the world, but it spilled over and it corrupted a lot of people, right? Because they taught this false thing without even going to the origin of where these things started. So they'll tell you that the Trinity and God is one with God and this and all of these things, but that's contrary to what the scripture is saying, right? It never said that there. But this is the idea, and this idea came about in the 14th century, right? And the concept of Jesus came about in that time as well. So what was there before that? Do you get me? What was there before? And now on the walls of Egypt, we talk about, Horus and Isis, right? And the mother and the child. And, it talk about a whole lot of different things, right? Which is, it's carved in wall, in the wall in Egypt. So we know there's a lot of things. We know that the Israelites were in Egypt at a point, and they were working there as slaves. And they were building monuments and doing all kind of different things. So then the custom, and the custom in Egypt had to be different, right? Just the custom in itself would have been different in Egypt for the people who lived there. Because remember, Israel was strangers to them, but Israel kept themselves to themselves. They didn't mingle with the Egyptians, but they all looked alike, right? I mean, similar. They could hide basically in Egypt. That's the reason why they went there. And a lot of times when something happened, they would flee into Egypt. Why? Because they could blend in with the people there, right? So this is why you have misteaching, the teachings that they tell us about the Egyptians and how they try to portray them today. That's not who they are, right? But you have to do that, right? Because then how are you going to explain when you have an image of a white person saying that that person is the Messiah? How would this person survive in Egypt if the people in Egypt were not, right, white? So you'd have to change the demographic, right? You'd have to change that. This is why they have done that. This is why they strategically changed the whole entire demographic of the place. I'm talking about from the Middle East, go all the way back. So majority of the people living there are from German, Russia, India, different places. They bring people from different places and put them in this area. These people don't belong there. They're not indigenous to that landmass, right? They're not. So when they have these people and they put them, just notice the most important places that you have read about in the Bible, historical places. They changed the face of these places by putting people there of Eurocentric background, people who look European. So they could say, well, see, it's not far from what the truth is. This is what they're trying to convey, right? So you'd understand why you can't say and why they would deny that the Egyptians were black. But then if you go back to the Bible, right, it explains, right? Now it explains. So now what's the contradiction between what the Bible is saying and what you see is happening in front of you? Because the people that are living in Egypt today are not Egyptians, according to the group of people that inherited that land from the Most High. They're not the people. They're not indigenous to that area. They're Europeans, Turkey. They're from those areas. That's where they came from, right? They're not indigenous to the land, and they have no connection whatsoever today. Do you understand me? Now, these people would have had their custom and their culture. How did they reach into this area? Because it would have never diminished to the point where it is today. So they would have preserved their culture. They would have been doing the same mummification and all of these different customs that they practiced for thousands and thousands of years, right? And these people would have honored, right, their dead as they did thousands of years ago. Why now? They would have been excavating, trying to find, because they're looking for evidence. Whoever's idea is this, trying to, excavate and trying to find information about people that lived before there. It means that these people felt that there's something important happening in this place and that they are a part of it, and they're looking for evidence, right? They're looking for fossil. They're looking for DNA evidence. They're looking for people that have been living there, but everything they find so far, none of the information connects to Europe or anybody in Europe. So, but they won't tell you this, right? They would not say that. But if you go to the Bible, it will explain to you, right? Noah 3 sons, we can break that all the way down to who get the land that they call Egypt today, which is not Egypt. It was changed because Egypt, right? That's a Greek word, right? So we're talking about ancient Kemet. That's the name of the land. So it was Kemet, right? So now let's go to Noah 3 sons, right? Ham, Shem, and Japheth, right? So now Ham, right, is the progenitor according to history and according to whatever, information exists out there, is the progenitor of the black race, right? According to what they say. Notice they separate everything because this is how they're trying to claim or attach themselves to our people, right? Because this is not present history. Information is not present where everybody could see, okay, that's what it is. So this is why they could swindle their way in, right? So we're talking about Ham, Shem, and Japheth. So if Ham is the progenitor of the black race, then okay, fine. Now, Ham had 4 sons, right? Right, so it was Cush, Put, Mizrahim, and Canaan. 4 sons. That's what Ham produced. 4 sons, right? And these 4 sons, now Cush, we know who Cush is, the Ethiopians, right? That's who Cush is. They're 4 brothers, right? 4 brothers, which is Cush, Put, Mizrahim, right? And Canaan, right? So the 4 sons they had. So how could the Egyptian change from what they were to become something else today? Yet the other group of people, that is Cush, that their kingdom and where they live still to this very moment doesn't look like these group of people down there. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So you have Put, which was upper, and you have Kemet, which was lower Egypt. Then you have Canaan, which was what you call the Canaanites, who live within the area where the land was taken from them, right? Because it wasn't given to them as an inheritance. This is where Israel was supposed to be giving that land for their inheritance. So they had to get rid of the Canaanites to end up going to this land that was flowing with milk and honey, right? So now you have to put the dots together to understand what is going on, right? And the people that live in Egypt today are not the people. They're not Egyptians, right? I mean, they could call themselves Egyptian because that's not the name of the place anyway. But the ancient Kemites have no connection with any of these people that live in the land today, right? We're talking about the ancient people, and all of them are melanated, and their brothers and sisters relating to each other as they separate at some point and took their own inheritance that the Most High gave them, right? And the Cushites stay where they were. After hundreds and hundreds of years, they even fought with each other because this oral or written, information wasn't passed down from generation that, oh, your brother live over there, and they know this. So after generation and conflict and war, people separated, disconnected, not knowing that they were family from the beginning, right? They were brothers who didn't teach probably orally to their children that their brother lived in Kush, which was Ethiopia, and that their brother lived, you have brothers who live in ancient Kemet, right? Which were, family cousin members. But, the Most High has his way to, I guess, separate the nation as they become, as they begin to populate the area more, right? So this is where it's at. So we're talking about 4 sons that came from Ham, right? Now, so I want to know how these other group, white people that claim to be Egyptian in Egypt, right? And this is where we have to go, right? Yes, my brother, welcome. The topic today is the same as we continue to give some premise to the Bible and is the Bible the complete word of God? So we're probably in the sixth segment of what's happening now. So we're trying to bring clarity because I want people to understand, that we have to take this Bible, we have to consider the things that are written there and don't take everything for face value. That we have to do our own research, we have to do our own studies, and to understand, to analyze what's here, because it's been controlled by people that didn't necessarily have our people interests at heart. So this is where we have to, with our understanding and common sense, is to understand that these people didn't care for us, and the way they treated us. Why would they teach us anything that would have been uplifting for us, anything that would have been true to us, for us to connect with whatever was there, right? Yeah, so they're taking everything away and claiming it for themselves, So I'm kind of giving just a brief understanding about the land and how they claim this, saying that, Egypt and the people that live there today are Egyptians when they have no connection to that land, right? But are Europeans from different places who came there and settled in the area, right? In I think during World War II or before World War II, during the Ottoman Turk Empire, this is when these people from Europe came in and they settled in this area, and they take it over and they push the original Egyptian out. They pushed them out and took the area over. I mean, this is, so this is what they did. Right, but if you talk about the Bible, when you talk about Shem, Japheth, these people are not connected to Ham, because according to their definition, their history, right, what they wrote in their books, that Ham's supposed to be the progenitor of the black race. So now, how could we have some white people who live in Egypt saying that they're Egyptian when they're not melanated as the people that were living there in the ancient time and in modern time as well, but you just don't see those people. Now, if you go to Egypt, these people live there still, but they never show them, right? You'll never know that, their people, the original Egyptian, actually live there. I remember they had some riot, something happened there in Egypt, and they were burning the museum. Now, these people, right, if they were the original people and it's their history, why would they destroy the museum? Because it doesn't represent. They know that what is there in those museums doesn't represent them. They know it, but nobody's saying anything. So, okay, it's just a collusion, whatever, right? So I'm trying to let you understand this. So Noah had 3 sons, right? Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And as they break it down in history and try to claim rights, they said, okay, well, Shem is the root of the Hebrew Israelites, and you have Japheth is the Europeans and all of these things. They're trying to, and if you're not careful, my brothers and sisters, you'll believe it. You'll believe these things. You'll believe that these people are actually created this way, right? You'll believe that. You believe, okay, well, white people and black people was always around. No, that is completely wrong. Historically, right? In reality, it's wrong completely. And this is what they will teach you. And for you to get that understanding, that false teaching, and then you'll use that as reference and believing that you're justifying your argument when you're debating or talking about something like that, right? But they were never there. There was Japheth, the white man does not connect to these people. Because these three sons that Noah had, all of them were black, right? Noah's wife was black, right? Noah's three sons were black. Ham was black. So now they're trying to say, no, Ham was black, but somehow, the other two child was white, and they're the one that, give existence to the other groups of people, which is in China and in Europe, right? And this is what they're teaching us, right? So we have to understand this, right? There is a lie, there is a cover up, right? That we have to really get into it to understand what is going on with it. It's very tricky for a lot of us. This is why you have to serve your Most High and figure out yourself, right? Love Him with all your mind and your heart, right? And all things will come to you. So you have to understand the first human beings. As you can see today, there is proof, there is evidence that only the melanated people can produce white children, right? And the people that doesn't have melanin cannot do the same. So we know that the original people have to be black, right? And as we go back in the Bible and we talk about the leprosy, we know what the leprosy is. The leprosy is the people that you see today. They are the representation of what leprosy is, right? That's how they came about. Yeah, so we got a question here. Can you explain Romans? What is Romans 13:17? Let's go to the big book with the bold letters and see if we can get into Romans 14:13. Let's see. And let's talk about that. But as I said, my people, we have to really pay attention to what's happening around us. Because if we don't, we're just gonna get caught up, man. We're going to get caught up in a situation where we don't even know who we are. We don't know ourselves. So we have to pay attention to that, right? So let's go to Romans 14:13 and 7, right? Okay. All right. So Romans 14 on this other page here. Where is it? 14. Okay. Okay. So we're at Romans 14:13 and through 17. For the kingdom of God is not meat and drink, but righteousness and peace. Okay. I'm sure that's what the question is. Verses so 14, first chapter. Him that is weak in the faith, right, receive it he, but not to doubtful disputation, right? So not to doubtful disputation, for one believeth that he may eat all things, another who is weak eateth herbs. Let not him that eateth despise him that eateth not, and let not him which eateth not judge him that eateth. For God hath received him who art thou that judgest another man servant to his own master. He standeth or falleth, yea, he shall be holding up, for God is able to make him stand. One man's strength, one man day above another, another esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. He that regardeth the day regardeth it unto the Lord, and he that regardeth not the day to the Lord, he does not regard it. He that eateth to the Lord, for he giveth God thanks. And he that eateth not to the Lord, he eateth not and giveth God thanks. So basically, Romans, there are things unclean. Now let's talk about, because the unclean things, and this is basically talking about commitment and how our devotion is to what I don't want to use the word believe, to the creator that we're serving, or the God that we choose, right? Because there is a choice actually there to be our God, and how devoted we are and committed, to honor our creator in all things that we do. So everything, well, the freedom is to eat whatever we have or whatever, and this is merely a statement is telling you. So we're gonna get down into that. So if there is anything unclean, this is the problem, and I'm going to explain it to you guys so you can understand it. Right? And this is why we talk about the Bible, the first encounter with the book, and how we should treat it to understand the truth about what's happening in this book, right? And that's a huge problem for a lot of people to digest when the truth comes out, because they're taking everything literally, because the book was conformed, it was taught to us a certain way. Especially if you're a Christian, you went to the churches and you have learned this, right? They have taught you these different ideas of what the book is. Now, you have to ask a question first, right? Because we have to deal with common sense, right? This is what we have to deal with. Because without the Bible, without these other books, we have common sense. This is what the Most High gives us, so we can be able to analyze and understand things that that's happening around us, right? So common sense, very important. So that's what we're going to use to understand what's happening and what these scriptures are talking about, right? So we have to go back to when the Most High gave and established Israel, right? And we're talking about during the Leviticus, right? In Leviticus, right? We're talking about number. We're talking about Genesis to Leviticus, right? Numbers, right? When Israel was established, and the Most High gave them laws, right? They got commandments after the Exodus out of Egypt. So this is where we're talking about the Most High told them, right, that there are things that are unclean, right? And things that are not, right? Even when he spoke about Miriam and when she got the leprosy, not Miriam, sorry, but when you have the leprosy and there's a rising, and this is in Genesis as well, when there's a rising in the skin, and if there's spot all over your body, it means that you're unclean. If you have a cut, it means that you're unclean, right? Until the evening. So these things were established in the law, right? The problem, and I'm going to explain why somebody's trying to rearrange the scripture to suit their desire, right? Now, the Most High has given them law, and there was a dietary law, what they should eat, what they should not eat. In order to maintain their holiness unto the Most High, they should eat a certain thing. They should not eat everything, but then you have scriptures now that contradict later on. Now we're talking about the scripture that was giving, or the order that was given, and the law that was given for them to conduct themselves this way. Later on, someone else comes in and trying to change it. This is where you have to understand why other people, right, who believe in their own culture, right, and trying to come into the culture of what the Bible or the scrolls are, which is the Hebrews' custom and culture, don't want to abide by the very things that this culture is saying. They want to carry what they have, yet they want to attach themselves to this information. So this is why you'll find that a lot of people and a lot of scriptures will contradict, keep contradicting what the first part is saying. But then you have to understand with common sense, my people, the Most High doesn't lie. And if he said, right, that all things that he created and they're clean and unclean things, then it's true. It's irrefutable, right? Right? There's nothing else beside that, because this was the first thing that was said, and this was in Leviticus, right? When he gave the dietary law to the Hebrew Israelites. People outside who eat pork and eat other things, they want to continue eating that. They are the custom, they are the cultures. We're not the same people. And this is why I spoke about this before, that the Bible, that we have today, right? This book only, right, end up in the hands of other people because they conquered Jerusalem in 70 AD and they took their literature, they took everything, and then they studied this, then they translate the scrolls, and then they compiled information, and Rome was the one behind it through using Christianity to push this doctrine around the world, right? Everybody outside of Israel had their own God. They didn't believe in the God of Israel. They didn't. They were doing their own thing out there, right? They were doing everything that they did, worshiping their God, eating their whatever they were doing. That's what they were doing. Now, when you have something that is different coming into your culture that you're used to eating this, someone telling you that you can't anymore. You're trying to, because you have control, you have power. They try to change the scriptures to accommodate the other tribes, the other cultures out there, which is completely wrong, right? So they are unclean things that we're not supposed to eat. The Israelites, I'm not talking about other people out there who want to eat whatever they want. The Israelites and the descendants of the Israelite, there's a dietary law for them, right? What they should eat, what they should not eat. So as we break down from Romans 14 to 13 and it further through 17, they're telling you that when we eat food, we give thanks to our Creator for it. So we say, thank you, Father, for all that you have given me. And then you have other people that eat food, they don't really care. They don't say thank you or anything for it. They do what they want to do. You know, so it's very simple to understand that the law that established in the beginning is the word of the Most High that said that things were not supposed to eat. Some were clean and unclean. Now, when you read further on, later on, someone is trying to change that. Just the very thing when the Messiah came, he said, think I came to change the law? Not one titch or tot shall be taken for until all be fulfilled. Right now, the other culture that is coming into the Bible and coming into these people culture are trying to change it, you know, to suit their own, to suit themselves. So they would say, well, you know, that was the Old Testament. Now it's the new one. So they're trying to make adjustment to the word. And this is why it go back to the title, is the Bible the complete word of God? This is what we're talking about today, right? Because culture are different. They're different because we're different people and we do things differently, right? And it become customary, right, in our traditions to do what we do, right? So Israel, their tradition and custom is different from Chinese, different from Russian, different from everybody else. Now, when you have this information that was publicized around the world and everybody believe now this in this modern time because of Christianity, who push the idea that all people are inclusive to this, right? Now, everybody with their culture, I'm talking about in China, they have many gods. In India, they have many gods, right? And other cultures around the world have their own God. It has nothing to do with this book. The information that is written here is for a particular group of people. This is why there's clashing. This is why there's misunderstanding in the scripture, because the heathen comes in and he wants to continue to do what he wants because he enjoys that. They enjoy being homosexual. They enjoy sleeping, bestiality. They enjoy doing the things that the Bible speaks against. So they try to find ways how to get everybody in, right? These other cultures, to let them come in and do whatever they want, still maintaining your whatever principles, right, that you have. You're able to maintain that. And guess what? Keep living filthy and dirty and do whatever you want. But guess what? In the end, guess what's going to happen? Just ask Jesus for forgiveness and that's it. All your sins will be cast away and you'll be in heaven, right? With the elders and all the great and amazing angels. They're completely wrong. Hello, welcome everyone. You know, so when we're talking about Romans 14, 13 through 17, we're basically talking about the same idea of what is clean and what is not. So what is unclean and what is clean? There are things there that are not clean. There are animals there that are not only the animals. The Bible told you when someone has a leprosy that they're not clean either. The Bible tells you if you have an issue that you're not clean. When a woman is on her cycle, she's not clean. She have to separate herself. I mean, these are things that's supposed to uphold morals, and not only morals but purity, right? These things are supposed to uphold that, right? And to be holy unto the Most High, you have to keep yourself always, in this thinking. So we have to be careful what we do, what we touch, and how we touch these things. They're different, right? For the other groups of people out there, they could do whatever they want. Well, the whole Testament, as I've said this in other videos before, that there's no such thing as Old or New Testament. This is just the Eden or the people. None of these things that happen. We'll say the Old Testament, right? But none of it happened. The Israelite didn't do that. It's the people who conquered them took their writings and tried to change it. The Israelite didn't say there was an Old or New Testament, right? It's the people who translate the scrolls claim that it's old and there's a new one because they don't want to live by the rules of the whole. But the Bible tells you, the Messiah speak. When he came here, he was teaching what? The whole Testament. He said, think that he didn't come here to change the law. He was telling them not one tit or tot from the law shall be taken until everything's fulfilled. Is everything fulfilled yet? No, because Israel is scattered among the nation this very moment. So everything is not fulfilled until when they go back into their land. That's when everything that they wrote about, the prophecies will be completed. None of this is finished. So what they calling Old Testament, which is a part of the law, right, can never be abolished. Never. It stands this very moment. But you understand the people that cannot live by this law, it means that this is not their culture. This has nothing to do with them. And when you have these scholars, right, these modern scholars who came in and tried to include everyone, they would try to twist the scriptures to put information there to corrupt the mind of the people to make them feel, well, we can do whatever we want. But then this would be contradictory to what the Most High said in the beginning, because he said, if one of my word pass, heaven and earth will pass away. So the Most High is saying within his consciousness, within his righteousness, he cannot lie about anything. So he would not tell you anything, right? And then later on, it's been contradicted, right? If it is contradicted later on, it means that someone else is trying to tamper with it, trying to change what it is. See, the book, when Rome, you say, why they make it a New Testament instead of modifying the original? Well, it's not modified because, okay, the children of Israel, right? They're not church goers. They didn't go to church, right? Church is a modern term. This has nothing to do with the Israelites, right? So they weren't church goers. That's number one, right? Now we're talking about what they call the Bible today, which is this book here. The information that they got to compile this book, right? It came from the Hebrew Israelite. And not all the words in here, right? Some of the words in here was exaggerated by these scholars, these men who were translating the book. They had to make up things or things that they didn't understand about the culture. They had to input their own idea of what they think. So when you read the book, you'll understand all of these things. But if, the Bible tells you that the Israelite, their spirit bear witness to the truth. They would know when they read certain things that this doesn't sound right at all. Do you understand? Because the information was given to them. It wasn't given to the world. And it wasn't supposed to be taught to the world either. Do you understand? The Most High had a relationship with Israel, not the world, right? Everyone else outside in the world had their own thing doing. This is why I said, I will raise up a horn in David to save his people. This is why the Messiah came, because the last dispersion Israel would be scattered among the nation. That would be the last. And and as in time goes by, in the last days, that they will be regathered again, right? Because they disobey the law, the statutes, and the commandments. So there is no new, what they call New and Old Testament. So when Israel was conquered in 70 AD and they killed millions of Israelites, and they took over. They took, the war. During war, you call it spoil. Spoil is whatever you have that is valuable left behind. The other party that win or conquered would take this information, and they would write the history about themselves, that they are, whatever is good about, or whatever they think people want to know good about them, they would write that about themselves. So they wouldn't talk about the enemy. Why would they talk about the enemy? Right? Why would they talk about the enemy and how great the enemy was? No, they would claim this history. This is why it's Rome who conquered Jerusalem. It's Rome, right, who pushed Christianity around the world. So you have to do the math, right? Do the math. Rome conquered Jerusalem and slaughtered the Hebrew Israelite, took their spoil, and then later on begin to mobilize Christianity, right? This new religion, right? Because the Hebrew Israelites were not religious. So when they mobilized, Christianity, it was they were the ones who went around the world trying to conquer everybody, because they want everybody to become that, and using this information to support, their religion, that religion as a foundation, because now they have writings, something that they never had before. They finally get, the writings that they stole from the Hebrew Israelite, and they're using it, right, to amplify their belief, their paganistic beliefs, right? So they use Christianity as a vehicle to do this. So they begin to go around, and what they were doing, this is why we talk about the crusade, they were looking for Hebrew Israelite, because if these people still exist, right, they would contest whatever is written here. So they wanted to conquer everybody to make sure nobody come against this book. This was a valuable thing in that era, right? And people weren't allowed at some point to have this. But, during the first printing, this is when this book began to spread all over the place, and everybody think that they are a part of it, right? Before that, only Roman priests, so-called, would have had a copy of this. If you got caught with this, you would have been killed, right? So they were looking for Hebrew Israelites who they think would have information, right? And they would execute them. Now, when the book was translated, or during the process of translating the book, when they gone through the scrolls and they were translating and try to understand what it was, they would change things that they didn't understand. They took information out that seems too harsh for them, right? They would take it out. So a lot of books that we talk about, which is the Apocrypha, this book we're taking out, all of them is a part of the scrolls. They're part of the information that were stolen by Rome, right? And these information, they said, okay, we're not going to put this in there. We don't need this. So many of the scrolls that seems to talk about judgment and what's going to happen to the wicked, they say, no, leave that out. Let's keep the one that is more subtle, right? And this is what they did. So now when they bring these books back, then we're talking about what they call the New Testament, right? When they bring back the same books, some of the books that were taking out, this is, through King James, right? When he began to authorize the translation for the scrolls, Rome, right, and King James, they were at war for this. They didn't like each other because of the fact that they wanted to keep the information, a certain way. And King James wanted to put the proper information there. They didn't want that. Even when King James died, they took the book and they retranslate the book again and took information out of it A lot of people believe that they have the 1611. No, you don't. The 1611, the original copy, they don't have that. Because the one that King James translate, that he authorized to translate, they took it again. So the whole crusade was to hunt down Hebrew Israelite community, find them, convert them to Christianity. A lot of Hebrew Israelite, killed themselves, didn't want to bow down to that religion, and they forced. It was all about the Hebrew Israelites, right? Or Judahites who were scattered. They wanted all of them to be converted to Christianity. And they did so forcibly using the sword. This is why they push them. So you talk about the Inquisition, we're talking about the Knights of the Temple, all these members and these groups, they had a special target, was to hunt down wherever there was the Israelite village, wherever there was community where Israelite people live, go there, convert them. If they don't listen, kill them. And took whatever they had. So if they have any scrolls, any information, they would take it away from them. So this is what we have to understand, my people, when we get back into understanding that there was no Old or New Testament. You get what I'm saying? This was information through different dispensation of time where people took information about what they experienced, who they encountered, and they wrote it down on scrolls. Right? Later on compile into what we know as the Bible today. But not all the information is here. This is why we're talking about, is it the complete word? But if you read, I told you guys before that the last book, which is Revelation, if you go in Revelation at the ending of the last chapter, right? 19, right? So Revelation, that's 22. Let me make sure. 22:19. It's a very short book, right? If you read there, and if any man, right, which is 22:19, shall take away from the word of the book, right, of this prophecy. Do you hear that? From the book of this prophecy. So they're telling you that you have to believe everything that is written here, which is, and none of the scrolls. This were never written on any of the scrolls, that if any man shall take away from this. So the authors, right, and the people that translate, they want you, Rome, they want you to believe that everything in this book in its entirety is 100% correct, and you should not question it no matter what. So when you run into these bumps, right, and now you're saying, oh, the book said clean and unclean, you dismiss these, you live with these lies saying, okay, well, I don't know, maybe that's what God wants. So people, feel motivated to continue doing what they like to do, right? Because the book is not telling them concretely that this is what you're supposed to do and what not supposed to do. So there's a conflict in the book, right? It's contradicting a lot of things. So you read this, but I explained to you why it seems contradictory. Because Chinese culture and black culture cannot mix together like this and everything just functions smoothly, right? It's going to be conflict. There are things that Chinese people do. There are things that black people do. So these two cultures cannot come together like this. It was never intended for that to happen. The Most High in the end, right, will put who's supposed to go where, and what's supposed to go what. You understand me? But it wasn't for people on the earth to go around. That's why the Bible said you have to go to, when in the end, all nations have to go to where? To Jerusalem to worship. Because now the Messiah would be there. He would be the ruler now. There wouldn't be no more other king outside there. All the people would be governed by this one thing. And only then, no king on the earth today cannot do that. Right? So we have to pay close attention to that. So there's no Old, no New Testament. So when anybody tell you that, oh, there's a New Testament, and dismiss the Old because it don't exist no more, and this is after the Messiah, so it's a new teaching. No, it's not. The Messiah himself was teaching from what they call the Old Testament. And not only that, he was quoting from this book. He told him that think I came to change the law, it means that the law still exists. So how could they now say that it doesn't matter no more? Right? And by faith, all of these nonsense that they're talking about. Christianity, my friends, that's what corrupting our people. Christianity is the root of destruction for the Hebrew Israelite. It has been for thousands of years. They have killed many Hebrew Israelites who jumped off cliff with their babies because they didn't want to conform to this religion. So take this in mind, that this old New Testament idea, dismiss that from your mind. Because we're talking about the beginning from when the Most High utter words from his mouth and swore by his holiness that I say this to you, right? And what I say today cannot change, right? Because if anything that I say out of my holiness go against, right, what I say are sound contradictory, means that I have erred. Everything has to be destroyed completely and start over. How could this be even possible? The Most High that give thoughts to men, that can see the hearts of men, make a mistake. It's just like you're telling yourself that you, as an individual, for example, right, you have the ability to see your future ahead of you, right? And not only that, you can see your future ahead of you, right? You can tell what's going to happen tomorrow and the day after. How could a person with that ability make a mistake? It's impossible. So the Most High, this is why he said to you and to us that, listen, if one of my word pass, heaven and earth shall pass away. He's making you know that, listen, what I say stands, because I know what it's going to be, right? There is no mistake in me. There's no error in me to make. So it's impossible for him to make a mistake, and it's impossible for him to contradict himself. So anything else outside of what was said from the beginning and then later on it means that somebody is trying to change the information, right? And when they do this, it's a conflict, right? And it sounds contradicting to what was said in the beginning. How could you tell us that there are clean and unclean things, and then later on you're saying there is a prophet comes who's saying that, oh, it's okay, you can eat pork and blessing, and man, all of that is a nonsense. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. You have to take the word of the Most High for what he says, right? Let's get to this other question. Is it impossible to follow those laws in nowadays? You know, I would say, why would I say is it impossible to follow the laws? It's not impossible to follow anything, as Christianity has taught us that we were all born in sin, right? And fall short of the glory of God. That's a lie, right? And I will explain that later on, right? Why I would say that it would be difficult living in a society like this, right? For someone to strive in righteousness, right, to the highest level, because this society is so corrupted. Liars, all things that the book speak against, right, is promoted here, right, in this place here. So it'd be difficult for you to live here when you have to depend on someone to get food and the things that you need, right? So it would be difficult for you to maintain, right, but not to follow the law. The law is very simple to follow. There's nothing complex or difficult about the law. Bible said, love your brother, right, as you love yourself. These are the first thing. Love the Most High with all your mind, your heart, and your soul. And love your brother as you love yourself. These two laws hang the rest. Once you understand this, everything else falls in place. It means you can only do that which is right, right? So it's not impossible to follow the laws nowadays. It's not. It never was impossible. The reason why Israel sinned, because they were curious about what was outside. So they always wanted to go outside to see, just like, you know, you have your kids, right, inside the house. They always been inside. You warn them about the outside world. Tell them, oh, you cannot go outside. These kids it's dangerous outside. You tell them all these things that you think is right to protect them. So they stay inside. But when they look through the window, they see other kids playing, and it seems fun to them, playing with balls, running back and forth, playing with water guns, having all this fun. In their mind, they're thinking, yo, why it seems fun out there and not here? So it wasn't impossible for them not to keep the law, because they've kept it. They always fall short because they always went after other gods because they think that it's more easier for them and it's more fun for them, right? Because they weren't supposed to, right, get involved with other people outside. They were supposed to stay to themselves. So they were isolated most of the time, right? So this is why they would want to go out. This is why a child would want to, the first chance he get to do it, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to go out. You know, and when they got influenced by other countries or other people outside, what did they do? They start to teach the same doctrine as the other nation outside. This is what corrupt Israel. So the law is not difficult at all to keep. It's nothing difficult in the law to keep, but this is what they taught us. Because the society today, and I could ask you that question, there is no society out there, and I'm talking about Israel, who these people claim that they're the children or descendants of Israel, live there today. Not even them establish the very law of the Old Testament or the Torah that they say. They don't have this law in their constitution, right? Why? Because they don't value because this law doesn't resonate with them. It's not their culture, so they cannot enforce it. They will not enforce it in their own country that they say they are the children of Israel. And I'm talking about the modern day people who claim that they're Jewry, right? They cannot enforce the law, not even in their community in Israel. They have in Gay March in Tel Aviv, right? So they're going against the whole entire scripture, right? They're going against the whole entire scripture, so they cannot even keep the very law or change the law or implement the law within their community. And only Israel and the Israelites alone felt, right, good to enforce the law of the book. The law that was written by Moses and the law that was given to Moses, I mean, they feel free to live by those laws. They feel good to live by it. Other nation outside wouldn't live by that. Go to China, go to Russia, go to Germany, go to Japan, go to any one of these countries and see. If you see any of the law that is written in the Torah has been implemented in any of those countries, they don't care about that. Yet some of them will try to tell you, well, they're Christians and their morals is based on what? It's not the law, because they already abolished, said it's an Old Testament, so they don't care about that. Right? They don't care about that. So it's not impossible to keep the law. Right? It's not at all. But you have to understand, if you're going to attempt to do this within this society that we live as captives, right? It will be difficult to do. For the fact, not impossible, but difficult. For the fact, there's a certain way that you have to live. Now, we're talking about the Nazarene vow, which is a whole different thing from just keeping the regular laws, right? That the Most High, is giving to us. So you can follow them how much you want to. And the first step is to love the Most High with all your mind, your heart, and your soul. Because the custom that we lived, our people and ancestors lived before, would be very difficult, right, to adapt now. Because why? The Bible says that Israel will be discontinued from their heritage. It means that our customs, we wouldn't be familiar with it anymore. But the only right thing that we can do here to sustain ourselves until when the Most High gather His people is to love Him, serve Him with all our mind, our heart, and soul. And secondly, to love our brothers like we love ourselves. All we desire for ourselves, we must desire the same for Him. And if this begin to happen, then you see that your brother out there wouldn't try to kill you, wouldn't try to rob you, because he wouldn't want to be robbed. He wouldn't want to be killed. So he would consider you, right, in every way. So it's not difficult at all. It's just that the societies today, right, they're not Israelites. So they cannot abide by these rules because it doesn't resonate with their culture. So they will reject this and they will take the things that they seems more likely. It seems good. Maybe we could keep this. It's not saying that we're going to go we're going to have judgment and we're going to get killed. It's not telling them because the wicked don't want to hear that they will be destroyed. So they don't want to be destroyed, but they want to keep doing wickedness. They want to destroy people, but they don't want to be destroyed. America don't want to hear that they are going to be overthrown. No, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear that we're forming allied, right? We're becoming allied. So that's good for them. But overthrow, no, we can't take that. So get that out of it. Let's talk about together, right? And living in under this one umbrella, and everybody just running around, and we do what we do as we please, right? And we bear in mind that at some point, right, as we're living free to express and do whatever and go against the law that is written in this book, that's supposed to be the foundation of their culture, right? And their society, but yet nothing in this book is implemented in the society. Does that make sense to you, guys? Does it make sense? Nothing in this book. There's only one thing they use: in God we trust, right? And it's in their judicial system, right? So there's nothing else. Or they tell you, oh, we swore on the Bible, their police officers and other candidates, whoever. That's it. What does that have to do with anything? Swearing on this book, but you're not following by the rules and the laws that is written there that we should live by, right? Because how could they live by that when it's not their rules and it wasn't written for them? It's impossible. So no, my brother, it's not impossible to follow the law. I say the first thing that is going to save you and I and all of our descendants and brothers and sisters out there is to love the Most High with all your mind, your heart, and your soul. That is the first thing we need to find, right? And when I say love with your mind, your heart, and your soul, this is, you might look at this as something impossible. It's not. The very way that you care about a woman, care about a man, and you love them, affectionately, and this deep concentration with your feelings towards that person, because they bring certain light, they bring certain energy to your spirit. This is the same connection you have to have with the Most High. That's the real connection that you have to have with the Most High. So it's not difficult. Just have to abide by the rules. Okay, do you think that also God work so people can find some clues between the old and the new one? No. The Most High would have, in his actions, he would have cast the children of Israel out. But in his mind, or in his thinking, or his consciousness, he would have known at a certain time, right, what he would do to let the children wake up. Because remember, he said that once he swore on his holiness that he cannot lie, right? So, and he would have known the future. He would have known when things is going to work, how it was going to work. No, we don't know that, but he knows how it would work and how it would turn out in the end. And when the particular time that these people would begin to rise and begin to understand himself, or if he was going to intervene, because it's his, we belong to him. None of us own ourselves, right? So when he wants to, for the time that he feel like, okay, I punish them enough, it's just like you put a pot on the fire and you put some oil in it and you say, okay, the oil is hot now. You determine that, okay, it must be hot now, or you put the cake in the oven and you have a time and have nothing to measure it, and you decide, well, it's supposed to be good now, and you take it out. The Most High would have known that there's a time when he's going to either interject something, or he's going to allow them, because he already know that at a time we're going to be frustrated with our situation, and we're going to start to figure out something. Or we're going to tell ourselves, yo, this is not right. We're going to come to the awareness that something is happening, right? So he would, either he's behind it, right? Or the people reach to here, right? With what's happening, and decided, you know what, this is it. I'm finished. No more. I can't do this anymore. You have a lot of people living here in the America who are fed up with the system and fed up with the treatment and the constant running out to move your car in the morning, going to work, and you're not seeing anything. It doesn't give. So people like this now, you'd say, okay, your back is against the wall. You say, you know what, I'm leaving. And a lot of people are leaving. You understand me? Going to other countries, finding other place to live. So, this is what's going to happen in the end, or close to the end. You'll find that people are going to realize, the real children of Israel, they're going to begin to wake up by realizing themselves who they are. And they're going to pull together because, they're not going to need social media. They're not going to need YouTube, Facebook. I mean, the enemy and the heathen think that this is going to be the case. It's not going to be. They don't need that to rise because they have this innate ability to connect with they're all connected with each other. When a few of them begin to rise, right, or awake, from that sleep, right, they're going to connect with each other. I mean, I'm not talking about rising because you tell yourself that, okay, I understand who I am now. No. When we begin, right, in a few numbers, connect to the Most High, the real, I'm not talking about no Jesus, right? I'm talking about the Creator himself. When we connect with the Most High himself, just few of us in numbers, the other people around are going to be connected. We're connected with them. They're going to begin to feel something changing, and their eyes are going to be open, and they're going to begin to seek, right, where the source of this is coming from. This is going to happen very soon. So they'll be seeking the source of where this is coming. Why am I connected to this? And they'll begin to see that what's happening to them now. Right? What's happening to them and what's been taking place with them. So this innate ability that they have, connect with each other. It's going to happen at a certain point. So they don't need social media, YouTube. So you could block the videos, Facebook, Instagram. You could block and take down everything and try to control, how people express themselves and talk about the truth and the facts that exist. But these platforms just came about. Right? The Messiah was preaching and teaching long before. You think this is going to stop it? It's not going to stop it, my friend. You could shut this down. All it's going to do is going to make the rise more stronger. Because now people no longer depend on this. Right? They're going to find themselves and unify themselves outside. So their attempt to do these things, to control information, it's not going to work. Sorry. So that's what will happen in the end. Right? It would have been a time, that they're going to understand this. Right? And, the difference between old and new, there is none. As I said before, common sense would have I would have shown everybody this. This is not something to even debate, right? Because we would have seen, right, that the information, right, that belonged to some people, right, and it's not the people that it belonged to who translated it, right, are control the end product of the translation, right? There are other groups of people that are non-relative to these people who did that. The very people who their ancestors murdered and killed them. They're the ones who did it. So therefore, you'd have to understand this by using your common sense that, well, then it's impossible, right? It would be impossible. That anyone would be looking at an old and a new. We would have known that the information was stolen from us. And somebody, took this information and they divide it. For whatever reasons, whatever agenda they have, they divide the information and tell us, because it's indoctrination, remember. They want you to believe a certain thing. They want you to believe a certain way. They want you to see the lies and live by the lies and normalize the lies so the lies can be truth or become truth to you and your seed and your children after them, right? They want this to happen, so they would have done this, I mean, so you have to pay careful attention. So the distinction between the old and the new, people, you have to delete this from your mind because there is no such thing as Old and New Testament. You understand me? There wasn't Old and New Testament. There's a collective of information, a collective amount of information through different dispensation in time. That's all information was. Belonging to a group of people that live a certain way, that practice a certain custom, right? Culture, tradition. They had a certain experience with forces outside of the physical world, and they document whatever happens. They had experience, right, with people from the outside world who bring information to them and guide them and telling them this is good for you, this is what. And these people they spoke about them. And they had experience with this great power that came and delivered them. So these people wrote about it. They weren't going by books and numbers and all of these. Oh, this is chapter 5, Deuteronomy 4:68. This is modern translation and the way that, it's in its context, the way that it's put together. It wasn't like that in the ancient time. In fact, the Israelites, they learned orally, meaning that the elders had access to the scrolls. And if these scrolls had vital information, right, to teach or guide the Israelites, the elders would already know that, right? And they would have, they would have gathered Israel and they would have talked to them about whatever it was. The king, if there was a king who ruled over them, would have to know the law and know about the law and how to enforce the law. This was how it goes, right? So they would have known when the Messiah came that everything came to a halt. Everything came to a complete stop, because when the Messiah came, right, he came for a reason. He came because Israel was going to be expelled from the land. They would no longer be there anymore, right? So the custom, the culture, everything would disappear, right? But there only one thing would remain, right? His blood would remain there as an atonement for them in the last days. So when they rise up, they could turn and said, Father, forgive me, right? Or I forgive myself for all the wrongs that I have done and my ancestors have done throughout the years that caused us to enter into this place, that caused us to be born in this place, right? And when doing this, this is when you're going to be cleared from that error, that sin. Because the blood is already there for you, not for everybody in the world, but for the Israelites. Their brother, their family member sacrificed himself to save them in the end. Right? So everything came to a halt when the Messiah came, right? What the Messiah came and did was what? He taught about the Old Testament, what Moses said, the law of Moses. If you know about the law of Moses, you'd have known about me, because Moses spoke of me, right? So he was quoting from the same information that the prophets laid down, right? And you have to understand, during the time of the Messiah, that people would have been there as well, right? Writing about him, writing about the very things that these people did in their past, and how they, how they documented, them, whatever they encountered. They would have done the same thing, right? They would have done the same thing at the time when the Messiah came. They would have been documented that there was a child that was coming, because the prophet spoke about it. And on his journey, they would have wrote about it, what happened, what took place. Even when they said he cut the guy's ears off, and he said, no, stop, think that if I wanted to destroy these men, he could have called angels, 1,000 angels, and everybody destroy. But that's not what he came. He didn't come to fight and defend himself. He came to make sure that his blood was shed for the people. So he taught them, right? He was teaching them and telling them things. And there was one commandment that he bring to them. What was the one commandment? Love one another as you love yourself. That's the commandment that the Messiah brings. So there's no Old Testament or New Testament. It's not separated like that, how they try to do it in the Bible today. The information was just taking, and it's different time that it was taking, right? But overall, it's talking about the very same thing, right? Regarding the very same people, right? That are family members. So that's what it is. Well, you say this is not a question. If they erase the whole one completely, do you think the Israelites can find out it's not correct? Yes, the Israelites, they are, remember, he said their spirit bear witness to the truth. Why their spirit bear witness to the truth? It means that whatever is in the book and the scrolls is inside of them already, right? It's in them. He said, don't say that you don't know the law and it's in heaven and you have to go to heaven to get it. Him say, no. Him say, you know the law because it's in you. The only way to find the truth out is when we begin to embrace that which the Most High gave us, right? Not what you go to school and learn and they tell you this is limited amount of information that you're getting, because this is what's going to guide you and navigate you through life, right? So we prepare a recipe, which is academia, and you have to learn this. And this is going to make you grow up and have good conduct, good principles. But this has nothing to do with the creator, right? It has to do with you maintaining a society and continue with you, your children after you, and children after them to maintain this society that you live in. So when you're reading books and they tell you that you're a fool if you don't go to school, this is just an indoctrination for you, a programming for you, right? So you can come out to be a product of this society, and you'll be on the plantation working. That's what it's all about here. Go to school, learn, and do what? Get a job, right? And work and pay what? Taxes, right? And then you work, and not only that, what you have to do, pay rent, all of these things. So it's for this society. That has nothing to do with the Most High. But see, common sense, when you begin to cultivate, right, those traits that the Most High gave you, then you understand things outside of what society creates, because it's just a recipe. That's all it is for this society, right? That's all it is. And every society around the world have it differently. So if you go to one of those other countries, it's a different law there. It's different things they do, how they do things different. So it's their recipe. America has its own recipe. China, Russia, Germany, France, everybody have their own recipe, how they conduct themselves and what they think is best for them and their people. So basically, if you don't develop your common sense and don't lean and say that I am smart because I went to learn a recipe, that's foolish to say that you went to learn a recipe and this is how you're knowledgeable of things. So we always weigh and balance ourselves based on what? Formal education. That's what everybody use to set the standard of how intelligent they are or not. What about what the Most High gave you? The Most High didn't say that, oh, you have to go to school to learn. He didn't say that you need to go to school to learn. Society, man who developed their society said you need to do this. For what? What's the purpose of it again? Wasn't to make you wise. Was to what? To be productive in that society. So we have to look into these things, right? So even if, right, they erase the Old Testament and erase the information, it's inside of the people, the descendants of the people who resonate with this law before. It's in them. There's fragments of it. So if they begin to look within themselves and understand themselves without being, because you can work within the society if you want. No one is stopping you, right? But you have to understand yourself in the process. Understanding yourself is outside of academia and everything else. You have to understand who you are. And you have to look and analyze the things that are happening around you. Why are these things happening? So you have to question these things. How else would you know? How else would you even tell yourself that you're wise? But because you're leaning, right, on your common sense. That which the Most High give you to learn everything. This is what men use to build everything that you see within this physical place. The iPhone, the non-iPhone, the Android, whatever, the computer, the MacBook. Everything is built because they sat and they thought something new had to come in. Where did they get it? They get it from here. The information is there. It's within you already. So even if it restart, they take it away, we're still going to be, we're still going to find it. Right? we're going to find it because it exists already, mean that it's within our nature, right? It's within our existence. It's intertwined in our DNA. We're going to find it. Yeah, so when the world is coming to the end, do you believe Noah arcs would happen again? The book tells us that, when the time come, it's going to be like the days of Noah. And for those who are, the Bible specifically tell us what we should do, and that we should not be caught outside doing other things. And it gives us a lot of metaphors, parables that we should, we would understand, right? It is written for us to understand them, right? Not for the Pharisees, right? Not for the heathen, because he know that they would one time take the book. That's why the book tell you about, that a time come when they're going to say they're Christ. And you have seen it many, many times. A guy in Russia, a guy in one of those islands, was Solomon Island, one of those islands, and now some all over the place. Somebody always come on some cultism saying that they're the Messiah and all kind of crazy stuff. So, the Bible spoke about that was going to happen at some point, right? So, the Bible tells us that we're not supposed to be caught, right? So when the master come back, he's supposed to come and see you working or doing the things that when he left, he said that you were supposed to do. But as I said before, it's not the law that is difficult for us to follow. It's that we want to have our own time to do what we want to do, not what is demanded or what is deemed of us, right? So you'll find, even when your mom left you home and said, okay, I'll be back, make sure you clean up your house and do this and do that there. And as soon as she left, you don't feel compelled to do it because she's not there, right? And you feel that you're not going to get punished right away. So you will be measuring, okay, my mom says she's leaving for a week. So you wait and you said, okay, in the last days, then that's when you're going to come. But the problem is your mother could tell you a week, but you don't know exactly which day she's coming back. And this is how the Most High is going to return. This very day, nobody will know when, but everybody would concern with their happiness, with their joy, with whatever they like. They would continue to do that, right? And this is where the Most High is going to come between this time when he told you that people will be given in marriage and you'll be going to party and, you'll go to whatever event is happening. Everybody would go and say it'd be just like the day of Noah, right? So this day might be a day and people won't understand what this day may be. It's going to be a day where the sun or night wouldn't come at all. But people would use this day not because they can't. No, it's day, right? Say, it's supposed to be dark now, but it's not dark, right? 10 o'clock and it's still light outside. The sun is in the middle of the sky shining. Everybody going to use this opportunity. Oh, I'm going because no, guess what? You're off work now, right? It's 10 o'clock, the sun is shining. You're going to hang out. You're going to go out with your friends. You're going to go on the beach. You're going to go places because this is new to you. You won't figure out that why is this happening? A lot of people won't. But those people who are connected and understand the law and understand what's coming, they would recognize what's going on. Right? But other people would take this opportunity to have fun and to just embellish the idea that the sun is shining and they don't have to go to bed and they just finish working a long day of work and they put their best clothes on and outside. And people celebrating. And this might happen for a few days before the Messiah even arrive, before the Creator arrive. It might be going on and people just doing crazy stuff because it's a fun time, right? Just think about that for a second. Just think about it for 1 second. What would happen if the sun didn't set today? What would happen? Just think about that for a second. What would people be doing if the sun didn't set for today and the sun is in the middle of the sky, just shining, and it's supposed to be 9 o'clock? You're looking at the time, you say, wait, it's supposed to be dark, but it's not dark, right? It's shining and everybody's outside at first, the first day. Think about it. People will amazed by it. Second day, they will feel amazed. Third day, nothing happened. Everybody get to their regular duties, right? Doing what they do, having fun. That's what, that's what would happen. That is what would happen. So it's going to be just like the days of Noah. I doubt if it's going to be an ark, right? But it's going to be the days of Noah, just like the days of Noah. The Most High has his way of bringing his people back to where they're supposed to go. And whether it's going to take, remember when they leave Egypt, it was like 40 years in the wilderness, right? 40 years. It's a very long time. 40 years, because he told the elders among the young Israelite that the elders would not go into the land because they're corrupted based on what they did during the journey within the wilderness. He said, you're not going there. You're all going to die in here. Even Moses, who went against him, knew that he had to die too. This is not the God that we try to put in this, flowers and just gay and joyful and loving to what they try to describe in Christianity. No, it's not. He's a very stern and serious person. And his word, whenever he said that this is what it's supposed to be, that's what it's supposed to be. And because he cannot lie to himself, if he said that you're going to be punished, that's exactly what he's going to do. So if he swore to you and make a covenant with you that, listen, if you do this, when you read Deuteronomy 28, I've been telling everyone to do that, Deuteronomy 28 through 68. So this is the blessing. I'm telling you what the blessing will be for you, right? You do this, we're good. You do this, there's judgment. And I'm not turning back on my word. It's just like you with your son, your daughter, your children, and you tell them, clean your room, do these things. These are your duties. And if you don't do them, I'm going to be angry. So if you don't want to see me angry with you, do the things that I say. I don't hate you because I punish you. You understand? So a lot of people will take this out of context. But yes, my brother, it's going to be like the days of Noah. During that time, and people will be doing whatever they do. There was in the days of Noah, was it facts or fiction? During the days of Noah, there was a time when the earth was corrupted, right? And reading the Bible, when the angels them come down now, the book speak about a lot of things as we could get into the scriptures deeper to uncover them, right? When Eve was in the garden, said the tree of knowledge, right? The tree of knowledge that is known good and evil, right? Which is the tree of knowledge in the middle of the garden, that she should not eat from that fruit. Now, it wasn't eat as we know it today, putting things in the mouth. It's parables. And some of the context of that story has been changed, right? But this individual that was there who knew good and evil was going to deceive the woman, which was Eve at the time, right? So the book tell us the tree of knowledge of good and evil. There was someone there. It's not actually a tree with any apple on it. It was an individual who knew the secrets of heaven, good and evil. Adam and Eve didn't know anything about evil. They knew good. This is why I said, if you surely eat of it, you're going to become gods, and your eyes going to open to what? To good and evil. Your eyes will be open to these two things that I know. I know them. You don't. So this is where he tried to, this is where he teach them or open their eyes, say you'll be like gods, knowing good and evil, right? Because only the gods know good and evil. Adam and Eve didn't. But this I don't want to say serpent, but this individual, this entity, or dark entity that was there who trying to change the course of what the Most High put in place, said they should do things that they were warned about not to do, right? And this is how the first sin come about, or the first disobedient, right, came about, because they listened to someone else. It said the tree of knowledge, good and evil. And this was the very individual that continued throughout time. to corrupt people. The same individual from the beginning, from the garden to this present moment, he's there still corrupting people. So he never stopped. He's always there doing what he's doing. So knowing good and evil. So during the time of Noah was the same thing. This person figured out, how could I, because he wanted to, when he was kicked out, if you know about, I wouldn't say it's a war, but there's a small infraction there, right? In the place that was holy. And this same individual felt like he could, he could overthrow the Godhead. You have never seen the Creator, right? You have never seen him. But all the angels take orders, right? They know what to do because I said they have this innate ability because they're obedient. The Most High could speak through any of them, just like what he did with the Messiah. He could speak through you if you're living holy and obedient to him. He will speak through you. You're not him, right? And he's not you, but you're one with him, right? So he could speak through you the same as the Messiah told us that in the time, you'll be one with me and I'm one and we're one in the Father. So it will come. So this is what we, you understand about the Trinity, but we'll get into that some other time. So during the time of Noah, you had these angels who came down and fancied the woman of earth, the woman, and that they wanted to, sleep. It was forbidden for them. So just like the Israelite was curious because they were somewhere else, separated but living within the same space with other people, but they weren't allowed to mingle with other people. Their curiosity led them, right, to break the law. So they went out by observing other nations and other people. They wanted to see, have that experience. This is why they went against the Most High. This is why they transgressed the law, right? It's the same thing what the angel did. They transgressed because they figured that they're here and they're seeing everything within the earth happen. So they wanted to come down. And this is where they slept with women on the earth, creating a new species of people, right? Which was called the Nephilim, which, were giants. And these people begin to eat people and a lot of corruption. All of these things were taking place. So the Most High decided that he's going to wipe them all out. So he directed Noah to build an ark. And that he would gather the animals and all of them in pair would come. And this is what happened. And all the animals went there. And, everything else, whoever, everybody was busy doing everything, dancing, doing whatever they do. Nobody cared. It was life. That was a life, man. That was the party days. Right? And then he arrived. When Noah sailed off, he destroyed everything. The flood came. And everybody that lived on the planet at that time died. The Nephilims, everybody that were here, that didn't belong, and all the wicked and those of them who wanted to just be a part of the festivity, whether they were innocent or not, all died. So yes, my brother, it is in fact real. Then why they want us to believe we are born with sin? Exactly. That is a great question. Why do they want us to believe that we're born? And now, this is the way that we're understanding this. There's a separation, right? Because sin. What is sin? According to the definition, right? Sin is transgressing the law. Okay, who was the law given to? The Israelites. So this is why the Israelites, they're always punished because they broke the law. So they're punished for it. Other nations were never punished for the law. How could they? The law was never given to them. So when Christians are teaching these, false doctrine, and they, has nothing to do with the scripture. It's their own agenda, their own belief in fantasies, right? So the law and sin, I know they say we're born in sin. We're not born in sin because sin is an act, right? It's not something that just sit there waiting for you, right? It is an act of one thoughts, right? By decision. What you decide, the outcome. Because now there's two paths. And what I'm saying, there's two paths. It means as a child, you wouldn't know anything about what the other side will be, right? But when you live here for a while, right, and you begin to mature and you begin to learn and understand yourself now, you begin to see the world for what it is now. There is a decision that you have to make. As you get older, right? When you're young, you're innocent. You knew nothing about what happened. So there's no such thing as you're born into it. Because sin, as I said, is an action. It's an action from one's, mind, thoughts, decision, whatever you decide. That's what it is. So it has nothing to do. It's not an energy that just lay there dormantly and is waiting to possess you. You know what I mean? But there's influence behind it to get you, playing with that part of your mental. Because now when Eve gave that right up by allowing this individual to persuade her, right, that her eyes will be open and she'll be like God, knowing good and evil. Now this entity, this individual, share a part of what you would call the receptor. This receptor, which is a part of the brain that pick up information, now you have two instead of one before, right? Now it's split. Now this individual says on this side, he could compromise you, right? Through this flow of energy. When your receptor is picking up the information, he's able to connect to it because he was the one who established it in the first place. He was the one who bring this understanding to us in the first place. So now he's able to compromise that. Now we have to be deciding between left and right and left and right. When that wasn't the case before. It was not the case before. So we weren't born in it, right? We were born innocent of all these things. Then we later on, as we grew, we adapt to these thinking. Whatever, depending on whatever our actions are. The outcome, whether it's going to be good or bad, is a decision now you have to make. So this individual have a good amount of control over that part so that he will always influence the mind and influence it to do things. And that's how it works. So we were never born there as they're telling us that we're born and we fall short of the glory. No, we're not. None of us fall short of the glory. As I said, the Israelites, they could call on the Most High as they have done it many times, and he came and he delivered them. Right? But you have to love him with all your mind, your heart, and your souls. There are things that you have to do to connect with it. Because you have to remember, even the very individual that I'm talking about, right? What did he do when the Messiah came? It's not only Eve alone he challenged. He challenged everybody that came here. He went to Messiah and took him on a mountain, right? And said, look at all of this. I'll give it to you. Just jump and let the angel of heaven catch you, right? So this guy is very cunning. Do you understand me? So we're not born in sin, as sin is a energy that exists and you fall into it and then you get corrupted. No, it's your actions that's going to get you corrupted. So you have to make that decision, right? So is it not necessary for them to read the book and find God? No, they don't have to read the book to find him. The information is within them. If they really, because without books, if you throw these books away, right? People have to decide how they want to live, how we're going to continue from this point, right? And so you have to figure this out. So you don't need book to tell you how to be good because it's within you already. All of these things were created within us. So we don't need the book to actually, give us this edge over it. Some of us who believe in information will try to learn it, try to understand it more, right? Because it was written down by our ancestors. So we try to understand more of it, right? But we doesn't need it. You don't need that to make yourself, better to get to the level that you want to. Right? What are other ways instead of referring to a book which has many things fabricated? As I said, it's called the Bible, right? And this is a Greek term, which it's supposed to mean book. Bible is supposed to mean book, right? So, they call it the Holy Bible. The reason why holy is there, they're saying that it's pure within its essence or context. But book, we know that book is, it's just a collection of thing in the Greek word, right? So they compile this information from different scrolls, from different dispensation, right? And these people experiences, as I said, their journey, whatever they did, they collect all these information, and it was translated and it was compiled and it was numbered and labeled in modern terms. Leviticus 9, Deuteronomy, Numbers, Daniel, Matthew 5, 6, whatever. They bring this thing in numbers. It wasn't like this before, and they were reading, and you read on full stop and comma and apostrophe. It's based on the English language and how the English language is structured, right? Even the pronunciation of Jerusalem, which there was no J for the 1800s, and there was the I, and then they turn it into, so the sounding of the word is different. So it was Ya, so before it was Y instead of J. So it's very complex, right? Very complex. But it's just information, right? Valuable information, historical information, right? That our ancestors knew, and you, the descendants within the diaspora, will understand that as you begin to read it. Give it a try. Read it from beginning to end. And don't go in this book with a closed mind. Please keep your mind open and don't go in there believing that everything in there is actually true. Read it first. And you're going to see. As I'm saying, the Most High don't contradict himself. He never did. You know what I'm saying? He never did. So he never tell you, okay, you come to the club and you have to pay $5 to get in. Right? That's the fee to get in. Right? That would be the standard fee, right? Because there's someone at the door who told you that this is the fee to get in, $5. And then tomorrow, you go there and somebody else is there and they're telling you that the person that was there yesterday, he's not there anymore, so now everything went up, right? Somebody get rid of the person that was there and then they change the price. But the original price, that was the price. That's what it was supposed to be. Do you understand what I'm saying? So anything after that is corrupted. Just like Christianity said, oh, the Israelite is not there anymore, and you don't need them anymore, and Christianity, replacement theology, right? Christianity promoted by Rome. Rome, who are the enemies of the Israelite. How could this possibly be? Anybody tell me that? It's impossible. So we have to understand that. Right? So we would say that we are in search of the truth, right? The truth that lies among the thorns, right? The truth that lies within the dark places, right? We're trying to bring light to that truth. So we're in search, right, of the information that is correct. So reading this may give you a stepping stone, right, to what you're trying to seek, right? But as I said, it's within you already. Sometimes you need to have an understanding, just a reflection on things, and that's what it is. So, my people, I hope that answers your question to the fullest. I hope I was able to give you a clear understanding of everything. right? Um, Someone said no, it's not, but still, yes, right. Always love your life. Well, the question is not very clear there, but anyways, as I said, there are a lot of things, that people have to get into to know what's going on. And the truth is there, and here on the Naked Truth, that's what we do. We'll give you the facts about it, irrefutable truth. You could go and we want to talk about, the Antichrist. We're going to talk about that next Friday. We're going to talk about the Antichrist and is he here? I believe I talked about that in previous video, but why not? We have to reiterate these, these information, and as I want the people who are coming in later can have an understanding of it. So yeah, we're talking about that, and we're going to talk about that. The time is near, and I employ the other people out there who are non-Israelites and those people within their own cultures who find, should start understanding where everything is going and their position, because it's going to be punishment is going to be handed out to the people. He said, any man caught stealing another man shall surely be put to death. So you're talking about somebody who kidnapped some people and took them as slaves. You have to understand what's coming. Of course, the people that are living today would deny the fact that, oh, I didn't do it, it's not me. But yet the position, the stuff that you got, right, or that your ancestors got is in your possession. You didn't return anything. It means that you agree with what happens, right? So you could say anything, oh, I wasn't there, and this, I wasn't that. If your parents went out and stole a house from someone, killed them and took it, and you were born in that house and you believe it's your house, right? And someone telling you that, oh, the house is not yours, it belonged to some other people. You have to start looking into these things to find out, okay, so it's not my father. Whether or not you need to stay in that house, whether you need to give it up, whether you need to go apologize to the descendants of the people that were killed, whatever you need to do it, because at the end, there is no chance for you to go and do that. By that time, it will be too late. And only destruction, my friends. Only destruction. Only destruction. So I will tell you guys, man, the prophecy is real. The Israelites are real, and they are out there. And you know them. All of you know them. You just don't want to acknowledge them as being the people of the Most High. The same black people that you call monkey, one that you call dogs, the one that you call the lowest of the lowest, the one that you treat the way you treat them, the one that you cast and look down upon, the one that you tell your daughters not to talk to, not to marry, not to this. The very same people. The stone